G'day Earthlings, Dr. Rank here, and welcome to Gaming Legends, the show that invented pain and suffering. Previously, we turned Crash of the Titans into Crash of the, attempting to avoid the main mechanic of possessing the creatures we battle. But let's be honest, the only reason I made that video was to give myself an excuse to cover the superior sequel. Can you beat Crash Mind Over Mutant without the Titans? Just like last time, our goal is to beat the Wii version of the game while jacking as few Titans as possible. And of course, we have to do it on the highest possible difficulty setting, Bonkers. What counts as jacking a Titan is defined by the jacks counter in the statistics screen. If we ever jack an unnecessary Titan, we must quit the game and reload a prior save file. The run is over when we complete the final story mission, Defeat Cortex. And as a bonus challenge, we'll also be going for the highest possible completion percentage. Without further ado, let's get this run started. If you're unfamiliar with Mind Over Mutant, it doesn't follow a traditional level system. Instead, it's more akin to a Metroidvania, with an interconnected series of rooms that get more accessible as you progress through the story. The first story mission just tasks us with finding parts for Coco, which is already designed to be done with Crash himself. During this mission, we can also complete our first few optional missions, which are essentially achievements that contribute to the completion percentage. These include, but are not limited to, Can You Dig It for clearing the digging tutorial, No Place Like Wampa for finding all 5 Wampa voodoo dolls, 1/13 of Crash Grab for finding a Crash voodoo doll, and Easy Does It for completing the co-op puzzle. Plus, as we collect Mojo, we unlock upgrades for Crash, allowing him to spin longer and deal more damage to enemies. There is one collectible here that's slightly less accessible though, a gold Wampa fruit that raises Crash's maximum health. The intended way to reach this gold Wampa is to come back with a Ratal and a Rhino roller, but those are both Titans. Instead, it's time to recruit our old friend, Carbon Crash. The bad news is, the backpack mechanic from Crash of the Titans has been replaced with a Crash Mask mechanic, so the old boost jump method doesn't work in this game. The good news is, there's a better one. Press the action button with player 1 to turn Crash into a mask, but pause the game with player 2 before the transformation completes. You'll know you got the timing right if Crash's player number is no longer visible. Once you drop out player 2, the real fun begins. The game thinks Crash is the only active player, but you're still in control of Carbon Crash. Carbon Crash is also in a zombie state, being incapable of taking damage or triggering cutscenes and loading zones. If you press player 1's action button during this state, you'll swap back to Crash with an insane amount of height. This allows us to reach our first gold Wampa, completing the A Wampa a Day achievement. In Story Mission 2, we encounter our first Titan, a Ratal. You're normally supposed to jack him and use his special attack or freeze sneeze to make an ice bridge over the water. Luckily, Mind Over Mutant atoned for the sins of its predecessor by making AI Titan attacks equally valid. Make sure you kill him first so the engine will let you into his special place, then let his replacement sneeze into the river. Unfortunately, the inability to jack Titans has a significant impact on our bonus challenge. In Mind Over Mutant, each species of Titan has their own separate Mojo gauge, to which Mojo will only contribute if collected while riding that Titan. The Titan upgrades add to the completion percentage directly, as do 9 optional missions for fully upgrading each Titan. But don't worry, I've got a solution for that, and his name is Robert.
Did I forget to mention I was going to cheat?
Remember, we're basing this run entirely on the in-game jacks counter, because it would be pretty stupid to argue with the game itself. You know what else is pretty stupid? The game itself. The jacks counter only counts Titans that were under NV control at the time they were mounted, most likely to prevent the game from counting the same Titan twice. In certain areas, such as this cave, if you don't have the specific Titan the devs intend to be required, the game will spawn a pre-stunned version of that Titan without an NV. Thanks to a colorblind programmer at Radical Entertainment, Robert here does not increment the jacks counter when mounted. I will acknowledge that this strategy does circumvent the spirit of a Titanless run, but at the same time, it's also too stupid not to include. So, while pre-stunned Titans are allowed for the purpose of unlocking their own upgrades, I'll still try my best to make actual story progress without them. While we're here though, we can use Robert to knock out a few more achievements. If you dismount him and then remount him, his brother Rudolph will spawn. If we bring in Carbon Crash, we can mount both of them at the same time, earning Cold Feet. Once we're done there, we can press the pocket button to store one Ratical in the pocket slot for later use, then press the other player's pocket button to swap them around, earning Mutant Recycle and Multitasking respectively. I should also mention that pre-stunned Titans are only available at specific locations and only at specific points in the story. Once you defeat Coco, you can't get any more Raticals, so get all the Mojo you can for Robert while he's still available. In the meantime, we can bypass freezing the geysers in this cave by boost jumping up to this button. The horizontal geyser in the next room can be cleared with a normal spin jump, allowing us to reach Engine. The gold Wampa is slightly harder to reach, but we can make it by doing a mid-air boost jump. To make it easier to manage two controllers at once, I recommend charging a spin drill with the zombie player, then pausing with the home button while you change controllers. Once the game unpauses, immediately mash the action button for maximum boost jump potential. Story Mission 3 is dedicated entirely to the boss fight with Coco. After playing tennis with the basketballs, she stands in a puddle of water, being immune to Crash's attacks until frozen. There's thankfully a pair of AI Raticals in this fight, though they won't spawn if you already have one in the pocket. Once you get them to spawn, coax one into freezing Coco, then use the Crash Mask to shoot chickens at her.
The chickens are revolting!
Finally, something we agree on.
With Coco pestered by a plethora of poultry, we've completed Story Mission 3, the Girl Power achievement, and gained access to the Ratical Kingdom hub area. Also, Carbon Crash is now replaced with Coco, marking her first playable appearance on this channel since Wrath of Cortex. The path to the Ratical Kingdom is blocked by several walls, and neither Crash nor Coco can break them. Even chickens don't make a dent. But chickens aren't the only tools a Crash Mask can use. Spin the control stick 5 times to build up power, then press the light attack button to fire a charge shot, which is fully capable of destroying walls. Combining this ability with boost jumps lets us reach the Crash doll along the half pipes, and we can also knock out the first 2 Ratical dolls for the Freezer Burn achievement. There's also a gold Wampa that's normally inaccessible without a TK, but a boost jump makes it trivial. Just after the third save tiki is another body of water we're expected to freeze. We could use an AI Ratical to freeze it, but I've got a better strategy I call the Leapfrog Boost. Put Coco in zombie mode, spin jump from the edge and charge a spin drill, then boost jump with Crash and charge a second spin drill. Join Coco back in with the action button in mid-air to get the maximum possible distance. Even if you don't quite stick the landing, you should still hit the cutscene trigger, which respawns you safely on the other side. While we're here, we can earn the Stone Cold Crash achievement for stunning a total of 5 Raticals with only Crash or Coco. There's only 3 such achievements in the game, but since they're Titanless by design, they're a piece of cake. From there, we can easily reach Ratical Village, use boost jumps to get a gold Wampa and a Crash doll, and talk to the janitor to complete Story Mission 4. Our next destination is the Ice Prison via the Frozen Coast. We technically don't need to go here to beat the game, but if we go now, it'll stop us from crashing the game later. We can get through the river crossing with some AI Ratical assistance, but the geysers at the bottom of this path are another story. Only the first one is close enough to be hit with a sneeze, and the Ratical won't follow us on top of it. Thankfully, it's just barely possible to make it over the remaining geysers with a leapfrog boost. The battle immediately after is our first introduction to Magmadons, which are sadly incapable of upgrading. There is not a single area in the entire game where a Magmadon specifically is required, and thus no pre-stunned Magmadons we can mount, locking us out of the Shell-Shocked achievement. The ocean area has another ice bridge we can get some help with, as well as some icicles that can be destroyed with charge shots from a mask. This gold Wampa gave me a lot of trouble though. We only have a very small window to grab it, and the respawn animation eats into it too much. You're supposed to get it by using a Ratical Surf ability, but we can't do that. Instead, we have to leapfrog boost over to it, which is just barely possible to do. After that, we can ride the ice floe all the way to the frozen coast. There's a Crash doll here that also requires Ratical Surf, but it's too far away to reach. Even a Leapfrog boost doesn't even come close. I do still have Robert in my pocket though, so I may as well use him to surf over to it. And if you recall, recruiting him didn't count as a jack. The path to the ice prison has 2 locked gates requiring 1 key each. We have to come back through this path in the end game, during which the keys don't spawn, resulting in a crash if we approach the gate. This is why we didn't skip the ice prison altogether, letting us complete story missions 5 and 6 with no issues. In the prison proper, we can boost jump straight past the water jets, then use charge shots to destroy the ice. This will release our next Titan, Tucker the TK. To get out of here, you're supposed to use his telekinesis to pull a lever and open the door. I tried using boost jumps to go out of bounds, but I kept bonking on the ceiling and flying off in the opposite direction. Since Tucker doesn't have an NV and thus doesn't count as a jack, I may as well just use him as intended. But since he can only have 1 Titan in the pocket and Robert wasn't fully upgraded yet, I decided to let Tucker escape on his own from here. In the next room, we can use a Leapfrog boost to get past the icicle, a Gyro Jackhammer to grab the Gold Wumpa through the gate, and a boost jump to skip the stairs. Once we're back outside though, the path back to Ratical Village is blocked by an ice wall, which is apparently the one type of wall that's immune to even the Co-op Mask's charge shot. We have to use a Leapfrog boost to get over the wall instead, then use another to skip past the pillar. The final island is supposed to use a TK to climb up, but that TK is not Tucker. Use a boost jump to reach the last doll for freezer burn, then spin jump and boost jump to reach the upper ledge. From there, more boost jumps let us reach the top, but the exit is blocked by another ice wall. I tried boost jumping over it, but the colorblind programmer at Radical Entertainment put a kill plane up there. I initially thought I had to use Roberts to break the wall, but then something caught my eye on the way out. Apparently, if you don't have a Titan on your person, an AI TK will spawn up here. We can use its projectiles to break the ice wall for us, letting us back into the Ratical Village and completing Story Mission 7. Now that we've done the ice prison, it's now both possible and safe to skip straight to Evil Public School. But if we do that, Story Missions 8, 9, and 11 will be permanently uncompletable, reducing our possible completion percentage. Story Mission 8 just involves backtracking to Wumpa Island, which is much easier than the initial trip thanks to the permanent ice bridge. Once we get back to the observatory, we have to get past several pillars you're supposed to knock down with a TK. Initially, there was a strong wind preventing us from just jumping around the pillars and skipping straight to the desert. But now that we've freed Tucker, the wind has died down enough for several Leapfrog boosts to reach the other side, where we reach a major roadblock in the Coliseum. We need to destroy the floor, but only the Scorporilla is strong enough to do that. And she's not an active participant in the battle initially, only jumping down when we jack one of the Magmadons. There's no out-of-bounds shenanigans to speak of, and even if they were, they would run the risk of soft-locking our save file. Thankfully, the game doesn't check that you're riding a Magmadon, it just checks that you're on a Titan. Kill the Magmadons, then get Robert out of the pocket just long enough to summon the Scorporilla. Normally, her heavy attack would be capable of damaging the floor, but turns out that's only true if she's been jacked. Luckily, her special attack is non-discriminatory. It'll be a while between each use though, and survival is paramount. Rather than actually trying to survive, put Coco in zombie mode, put the controller down, and grab a Wumpa Whip. Once you reach the bottom, you've officially completed Story Mission 19 and have access to the Wasteland hub area. At the entrance, we come across a new friend, Scarlet. Unlike other Titans, Scorporillas can't be stored in the pocket, so we have to get all her upgrades out of the way now. This will go much faster with a 20 times combo multiplier, making each Mojo worth 20 times its original value. Get all the Mojo you can from the cacti, then leave and re-enter the Wasteland hub to reload the area and respawn them. Plus, as an added bonus, dismounting Scarlet after a reload will make her drop pink Mojo as well as blue, and give her replacements enough time to spawn and collect that Mojo. Scorporilla upgrades don't have an achievement, but they do still contribute to our percentage. While you're at it, you may as well take this time to fully upgrade Robert if you haven't already for Ice on the Cake. The desert path has several walls we can destroy with co-op charge shots, as well as a Rhino roller doll we can grab with a boost jump for the hot stuff achievement. There's also a crash doll locked behind a shooting gallery, but charge shots are fully capable of destroying targets even behind cover. Immediately after is our first encounter with a Rhino roller. The battle is simple enough, but the AI rollers won't trigger the cave-in on their own. We do get an appearance from Roland after the battle, but I don't have a place for him. Yet. I tried boost jumping up there from the ground, but the rocks are too slippery and the upper ledge is too high. Instead, make sure these barrels remain intact and boost jump from there. It is possible to drop down into the cave entrance, but that path is completely untraversable. The path goes through several rails that only a roller can ride on, and leapfrog boosts proved less than effective. Luckily, we can still access this path from the back door, boost jumping over the gate to reach both the roller doll and the gold wumpa in the half pipes. Conveniently, there are no collectibles in the middle section of this room, so we can head straight back to the dunes. After doing the co-op puzzle for It Takes Two to Tango with only one player, we slowly walk across the dunes to gather the 3 keys. The one on the right hand ramp is just barely out of reach due to the steep slope, but a boost jump will reach it just fine. We can also use a boost jump to get the key on the loop-de-loop, opening the gate and saving us from having to glitch our way in later. After another charge shot shooting gallery to get a roller doll, we arrive in Rhino Roller Village, completing Story Mission 10. Story Mission 11 is just outside, asking only to defeat a horde of spikes. There's more than 5 of them, so we can knock out the Spike the Punch achievement, but don't expect it to be easy. If one Bandicoot is low on health, tag in the other to effectively get an extra life. We unfortunately can't get any pre-stun spikes, so don't expect to do stick it to them. Also, you might notice this giant locked door. If you want to boost jump over this door and head straight to the Junkyard and Mount Grimly, there's nothing stopping you. However, the colorblind programmer at Ratal Entertainment prevented any enemies from spawning there until we finish our Evil Science homework. It just so happens that getting to Evil School is the goal of Story Mission 12, so we backtrack there, picking up Tucker from the observatory on the way. Don't worry about leaving Roland behind, we can get him back later. The entrance to the Evil School hub is locked and only a Rhino roller can unlock it, which is the whole reason we went to the desert. Luckily, opening the door isn't required to enter it. Put Coco in zombie mode, spin jump and hover against the top of the doorway and boost jump to clip through the wall. From there, you can just barely hover into the loading zone. The path to Evil School is littered with half pipes, but we can boost jump past all of them. We can also use boost jumps to reach both gold wumpas on this path, as well as the purple dolls for the N is for Evil achievement. We'll also need some boost jumps to bypass the ice walls, which are still immune to charge shots. The crash doll here is behind 2 of them, but we can just barely grab it with a gyro jackhammer. Some walls are impossible to jump over due to the low ceilings, but in those cases we can go under them instead. Once we arrive at the school grounds, we complete Story Mission 12, with Story Mission 13 being in the school proper. We can use charge shots to take out the electric fence, granting easy access to the front door. But if you got here early, you'll instead have to boost jump over the door. The hallways require us to climb fences between floors, but the potholes are guarded by electric barriers, which are completely solid. We could use Tucker to disable them, but I wanted to show off. By using this little cubby where Tucker spawns, we can boost jump past the first fence and land on the ground above. The second spike pillar can kill you through the floor from here, so I recommend letting it chase you first. Skipping to the top floor was a lot harder, but I eventually managed to jump off the fence and boost jump through the foreground. All we have to do now is defend Nina's project from the chicken cannons, and we've finished Story Mission 13. On the way back to the Rastical Kingdom, we encountered a mystery. I accidentally broke an ice wall with a spin attack. This should not have been possible. Apparently, we'd activated a glitch called Super Crash, which gives Crash and Coco's attacks the attributes of a Titan's attacks, including the ability to break walls. At the time of this recording, nobody knows what triggers it or how to do it consistently. All we know is, it's neat. Back at Wampa Island, the Spike Squad is out for revenge, this time bringing some friends. The Snipe is another Titan that never shows up pre-stunned, locking us out of Shoot the Works. The path to the Spike Arena takes us back through the river crossing, this time turning left. The AI Reticle can't sneeze that far, but we can use a leapfrog boost instead. Once at the arena, we defeat the Spike Hero and his gang, giving us the Hero Key and completing Story Mission 14. It's worth noting that while pre-stunned spikes are not a thing that exists, we can come back to this arena later to get a pre-stunned Spike Hero. However, the Hero Titans upgrades are separate from the rest of their species, and they don't contribute to our percentage, making them worthless. At this point, we can play the Wasteland Arena minigame for the Stand in the Sand achievement, which just involves defeating all the enemies within the time limit. Your fastest kill options will be chin ticklers with the occasional counter, and you can make stunned titans die faster with a fully charged heavy attack. The path towards the Junkyard is supposed to use a Rhino roller, but we can just double jump over the first gap and use a boost jump to reach the final edge. We can also get another gold Wampa, as well as the last doll for hot stuff, before entering the Junkyard proper and completing Story Mission 15. In the 2D section of the Junkyard, we come to the part where the run dies. In order to progress, we need to enter this area, but the only way in is through an extremely narrow gap. The dev-intended solution is to use a sludge to crawl through, but that would require jacking it. There isn't an accessible pre-stunned sludge we can use either. Any sludge we use will count as a jack. There is an out-of-bounds route that speedrunners take just past the Junkyard Arena, but I wasn't able to reach it with boost jumps. If we want to get past here, we have to actually use a Titan. But that Titan doesn't necessarily have to be a sludge. Before going any further, make sure you have a save file that hasn't entered the Junkyard yet. If you've already viewed the Abuse, Misuse, Recycle cutscene, this strategy will no longer be available to you. Quit the game and start a new save file playing up to the first Raticle. You can skip the Coco parts on this trip by boost jumping over the door to the left of Crash's house. Once you reach the Raticle, put Carbon Crash into zombie mode, stun the Raticle, and wait on this rock. As soon as the Raticle dies, unleash a boost jump while holding right, and you should land out of bounds just as the cutscene starts. If you do it right, you'll now have access to the Omni control glitch. Crash normally doesn't respond to controller inputs during cutscenes and room transitions, but Omni control overrides that rule. That's neat on its own, but it also lets us harness the full power of the colorblind programmer. If you enter a cutscene while riding a Titan and then pocket the Titan before the cutscene ends, they'll become a flying Titan, no longer bound by the laws of gravity. You can adjust the speed and altitude by moving into walls at different angles. The Titan will keep its flight powers until it enters a new cutscene, does a mid-air attack, or loads a new hub area. The Flying Titan glitch normally has a 2-frame window to pull off, but Omni Control extends that window to the entire duration of the cutscene. Oh, and I didn't even mention the best part. Omni Control is permanent. As long as you don't turn the console off, you can use it in every single save file, past, present, and future. With Omni Control now active, we can load our main save file and head back towards the Junkyard with a TK or Rhino roller in the pocket. The latter is easier to use, and you can pick up Roland either on the Junkyard path or in Roller Village. Make sure you're riding it as you enter, then press the pocket button during the establishing shot. Once you reach the arena, take Roland out of the pocket, roll into the slope on the left to get some altitude, and fly up and over the invisible wall. Once there, pocket Roland and you should land right in the exit. Use Crash to beat up the sludges for the Follow Your Nose achievement, then talk to the NPC sludges to complete Story Mission 16. We can easily boost jump over the gate here, but first we've got a boss to fight. The entrance to Crunch's boss arena is blocked by some spike pillars, which can only be removed by pulling this lever. Any attempts to fly or boost jump my way in were fruitless, and even if I could get in, there's no guarantee I could get out. Thankfully, Tucker spawns beside the gate, though this is your last chance to grab him ever. Using Tucker, we can pull the lever and enter the boss fight with Crunch. The first two phases rely on using the TK anyway, but I'd rather keep it in my pocket for later. Luckily, we can destroy the guns in Phase 1 with the Crash Mask's charge shots, and we can damage Crunch in Phase 2 with the Clock Platoon. In Phase 3, you're supposed to jack Crunch himself and use his missiles to hit Embryo on the catwalk, but Crunch legally counts as a jack. Thankfully, the Crash Mask is once again a perfect substitute, using charge shots to both destroy the wall and hit Embryo himself. This completes Story Mission 17 and the Crunched achievement. Also, since we didn't jack him, Crunch is still present after the battle. And if you enter the 2D room and come back, he'll be very confused. Once Crunch is defeated, Slick will make his first and only appearance in the entire game, making this your only chance to pick up a free sludge. Since you can only store one Titan in the pocket at a time, it's also your absolute last chance to get all the TK upgrades. Spend a couple hours killing Slick over and over to farm all 30,000 Mojo to earn T to the K, then ditch Tucker and take Slick with you. We can use Zombie Mode to get through the Acid Lake without taking damage, getting another Gold Wumpa and the Sludge Dolls for Don't Recycle along the way. All Gold Wumpas beyond this point intend for you to use a specific Titan, such as here where you need a Spike to destroy some, well, spikes. Thankfully, we can just boost jump our way in from above. Getting out again is the hard part though, as I wasn't able to boost jump back up. You could just save and quit from the pause menu and restart from the last save Tiki you passed, or you could use the cutscene from the gate opening to give Slick flight and fly out of here. Once we enter Mount Grimly, we complete Story Mission 18, but we also encounter a loading screen, which removes flight from all Titans. Thankfully, both the Battler and Grimly have intro cutscenes we can use to get it back. Not that you need it for the Gold Wumpa in the lake, as Leapfrog Boost will suffice. The path through Mount Grimly makes heavy use of the Grimly's power to slow down time. And you thought Kapunawa was an original idea! The hardest obstacle to overcome is the spinning blades, but Crash is still able to stand on the axle and jump across to the other side. For longer blades, you'll want to keep a boost jump in reserve, just in case you fall off. We can use gyro jackhammers to avoid damage from the boulders, and we can use zombie mode to clear the chompers. The falling platforms can sometimes let you cross with just Crash, but you're better off using a leapfrog boost. Just to the right of them is a platforming puzzle that relies on TK's powers. There aren't any potential boost jump routes up this wall, but remember, we've still got Slick with us. Use him to fly all the way up to the top, banking our final Gold Wumpa. The Voodoo Dolls in Mount Grimly are all easy to get with just Crash, earning us Over Easy, Crash Grab, and the Dark Side. Once we reach the summit, we come to everyone's favourite run-ender, the Yuctopus. In order to free Ukauka, we must destroy all 4 generators, which can only be done with the Yuctopus's Mojo Blast. I tried getting an unjacked Yuctopus to do the work for me, but the generators didn't respond. And even if they did, he doesn't fire long enough to drain all their health in one go. Skipping this story mission isn't an option either, because without it, none of the required items for the subsequent story missions will appear, which means we can't access the final boss. There is a pre-stunned Yuctopus in the room immediately after, which is accessible from the back door with flight shenanigans, but that Yuctopus doesn't spawn unless we've already saved Uka. In order to complete Story Mission 19, we need to jack a Yuctopus. And since this Yuctopus has an NV...
You fail.
Wow! If I had a nickel for every time I was doomed by a octopus, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice, right?
At the very least, we can use Yuri in the next room to farm Yuctopus Mojo, which contributes only percentage with no achievement. Once we get back to the start of Mount Grimly and defeat all the Cenchers, we get access to 3 teleporters and can fast travel across the map. The main purpose of this is to challenge the 3 Titan heroes to get Uka's bones back for Story Mission 20, then drop them off at Uka for Story Mission 21. The Snipe hero is the easiest of the 3 to reach, just being a short walk from Roller Village. The Grimly hero is a little harder, with the path blocked by boulders that move too fast to avoid, but gyro jackhammers can take care of them. The Magmadon hero is the hardest, sending you past several waterfalls with falling ice. Now where have I seen this before? Unlike the similar platforms in Mount Grimly, these ones seem to be impossible to cross with Crash alone. Leapfrog boosts can help a little, but with how high the kill plane is, there's no margin for error. I think this might be possible in a task, but personally I just brought in Greg from Mount Grimly and slowed the platforms down. But before doing that, we can visit the best Mojo farm in the entire game. Head back to the Coliseum and you'll find 2 Scorporillas. After defeating both of them, 5 Gold Mojo worth 100 each will appear. Gold Mojo normally doesn't respawn after collecting it, but this batch is a special exception. If you collect 4 of them, but leave the 5th alone, then enter and exit the Wasteland hub, all of the Gold Mojo will respawn. With a 20 times combo multiplier, this can give you 8,000 Mojo in a single trip. Upgrade Slick first to get Goo Squared, then come back with Roland from the Wasteland for Roll It Up, Greg from Mount Grimly for Night Fright, and Steve from Mount Grimly for Pea Stinking You.
Come again for Big Fudge?
Yeah, turns out the colorblind programmer at Radical Entertainment was even more colorblind than we thought. Steve appears at the teleporter hub even though literally nothing in the story requires stenches. But that's not the weird part. The weird part is that Steve only appears in the NTSC Wii version specifically. He's not there on PAL, he's not there on PSP, he's not even there on the American Xbox 360. Since Wii games are region locked, the only way to get the Pea Stinking You achievement without affecting the Jax counter is to own an American Wii. And who would be stupid enough to buy an American Wii just to get one lousy achievement in Crash Mind of a Mutant? Well, at least it's a business expense. We could use this farm to max out Crash's Mojo gauge for Crash King, but we can do some multitasking instead. There's still some arena minigames we haven't done yet after all. The ones in the Junkyard and Wampa Islands just require you to defeat all the enemies, but the Ratical Kingdom and Mount Grimly arenas are even more interesting. The goal of these minigames is to survive until the time runs out, but if you activate zombie mode, you can't take damage. This allows you to build up a combo multiplier against an infinite supply of enemies without the risk of losing it. And once you do run out of upgrades, you don't even have to do anything. Just activate zombie mode and take a bathroom break. Once you've finished every battle arena and gotten all the upgrades you can, enter the Doominator for Story Mission 22 and the end game. The Space Head is already designed to be traversed by Crash himself, letting us casually walk into the control room for the final battle with Cortex. In Phase 1, Cortex creates a tornado that prevents us from getting close to him. I tried using chickens against him, which we already know he hates, but they just got blocked. And charge shots didn't work either. The only way to progress the battle is to slow him down with Greg, which re-establishes Cortex's bird allergy. We can easily stun him in Phase 2, but we still have to jack him to make the other enemies spawn. Only after those enemies are defeated does the final spin switch open, and it has to be Cortex specifically that activates it. With one final belly flop on the self-destruct button, the Mind of a Mutant Titanless run ends with one jack.
Come again for Big Fudge?
Yeah, when I got back to Crash's house after defeating Cortex, the Jax counter still only showed 1, even though I had clearly jacked both the Octopus and Cortex. Remember, the counter only counts Titans that were wearing an NV. But Cortex didn't use an NV to transform, now did he? This insignificant attention to detail could only have been implemented by the most colorblind of programmers. Regardless, our final completion totals are 23 story missions, 47 optional missions, 18 Mojo upgrades for Crash, 14 health upgrades, 40 Titan upgrades, and 86% completion. The only things we're missing are the upgrades for Magmadon, Spike, Snipe, and Battler, none of which have any pre-stunned variants we can use. If you want to watch the run, you can check out the livestream archives in the description. And be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next challenge. That's all for now, and I will see you down under.